Welcome, and thank you for joining for another one of Mike's Whiskey Reviews. I am Mike, if not that would be strange, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Talisker 25-year-old, 45.8% ABV. The reason why I bring that up is this. Talisker 25 and 30 used to be made in a cask strength version back until I want to say 2008, 2009, roughly that time frame. I could be slightly off on that time frame, so don't take that for granted, but it's been quite some time, being that this is the end of 2019, that they all went to a standard 45.8% ABV. The current version just still comes in this really nice box, very much like the 30-year-old, has this nice salmon colored padded insert, and this kind of goes over the top of the bottle once you put it in to protect it. And on the inside, it tells you a little bit about the Scotch and the distillery. I'm sure you guys don't want to be bored with reading all of that, so I will skip that particular portion of it, but always good reading, and always nice when they put on a nice presentation for an old whiskey that is somewhat expensive. Now, this Talisker 25 will be essentially the wrap-up of the age statement Taliskers that are currently released. I have brought you the 10, which is a great whiskey for the money. The 18, which is one of my favorite 18-year-old whiskeys, a little bit pricey for an 8-year-old whiskey, but still an incredibly good 18-year-old. I brought you the 30 probably a month or two ago, so I'm going to scroll down in the videos. 30 is not far behind this one, and this one being the 25 is the last, or the total of 4 age statements that Talisker annually produces, at least at this time in 2019. So, all of the age statement Taliskers are 45.8% ABV, as I mentioned earlier. I have not brought you, if I'm not mistaken, I have not brought you an NAS or a non-age statement Talisker in the past, only because I've not really been terribly impressed with any of them. The Distiller's Edition isn't bad, but never really was that impressed to where I thought, hey, I'm going to buy another bottle, and if I'm not going to buy another bottle of something, I'm probably not going to bring it to you fine folks as far as a review. Anyway, Talisker 25, this whiskey is from the island of Skye, west coast of Scotland, a little north of Islay, where Lagavulin and Lafroig Ardbeg is. Still offers a very maritime characteristic with a little bit of peat, but it does it in its own unique way. So I want to, first of all, show you this color. It's a nice, rich gold, let's say. I am convinced that this is colored. Not only because it is owned by Diageo, which colors almost everything that is in a special release, but also because I have a cask strength version of the Talisker 25 that I'll bring you guys here in the coming months. And I've compared these two whiskeys side by side, and the cask strength Talisker 25 is quite a bit lighter than this version of it. And why it could be the casks, my guess would be the fact that it's just probably colored. So, and especially when you get such a consistent gold color like this, and it's from Diageo, my opinion is probably going to be that it's colored since it matches the 18 almost exactly. All right, Talisker 25. This particular vintage is from 2017. How you know that is, it actually says so on the bottle. So it looks like in 2017 they made 739 bottles, at least in this batch, and this is bottle number 259. So let me try to show you guys that on the camera best I can. You see it right underneath the number 25. They put a 0 before the numbers, presumably because they used to be in the thousands when they used to release the older vintages. I'm guessing maybe that will be the case going forward, or maybe with their label system, they have places for 4 numbers, and so they have to put a 0 in front of it. But whenever I see a 0 in front of 259 and a 0 in front of 739, I have to question why. But not for too long. Anyway, 2017 Talisker 25. This particular one is anywhere from a pricey whiskey to a very pricey whiskey, depending on where you get it. This whiskey here is one of probably a handful of whiskeys that vary drastically in the United States as far as what the cost is. Online retail shops, I've seen this for as low as $2.40 for a bottle plus shipping, assuming you're not in the area where you could pick it up. And then here in Columbus, Ohio, which is Ohio's a liquor controlled state, so it's the same anywhere in Ohio, this particular bottle is $504. Now, I'm not paying $504 for this bottle, so I was able to get it from an online retailer Told a couple of my friends about it, and I got it for a little bit less than half of that, even when the shipping came in. So if you're looking to explore this bottle and buy one for yourself, the only thing I would suggest is shop around. Because especially with prices going up on Scotch all the time, not knowing what these tariffs are going to do, we have to be more diligent than ever to check all the resources to make sure we're getting the best deal on Scotch whiskey. All right, enough about that. Again, we talked a little bit about the bottle itself. Oh, one more thing I wanted to mention was cask maturation. The majority of this is from ex-American barrels. Now, it didn't say bourbon barrels, and that's telling because it probably means whiskey barrels, I'm guessing, or maybe something that had some other type of a spirit in it. Again, probably some type of whiskey. But just to let you folks know that aren't familiar with bourbon, sometimes Scotch distilleries will note that it is an ex-bourbon cask, which just means it has to be 51% corn, as well as other components such as rye and malt. When they say ex-whiskey, you think Jack Daniels, something along those lines. They're very similar products, but can impart a little bit different of a taste in the whiskey as far as the cask maturation for Scotch. So what I was able to read, this is again ex-American oak and then ex-European oak. Again, they didn't say sherry oak. Ex-European oak, I assume it's some type of fortified wine, not necessarily sherry, but you know, it could be Fino, many different types of casks. So with that, let's get into this one. Give it a quick swirl around the glass, see what the legs are doing. We'll get into the nose. First thing you'll notice on this is extremely light. Very, very light nose. The 10, the 18 have a much stronger nose, which makes sense, but the 30 even has a much stronger nose than this 25. All the same ABV, but this one is very delicate on the nose, at least initially. It is one of these whiskeys that you can tell is made by the sea. It's briny, salty. Very light smoke. If I had to guess the ppm level on this, I would say 15, 20, very light. Some citrus notes, light orange, light caramel. You're gonna hear me say light a lot with this one because all the flavors are very, very delicate. A note that I guess I've been going back and forth with trying to accurately describe what it is or what it is to me. I've come up with this dry grass. It is, what is it, November here in the States, and about a month or so ago we're getting to the last grass cuttings of the year. It's almost like when it hasn't rained in a while and the grass is really, really dry. It's almost like this dry grass note, not like a lemongrass or a normal like sweet grass smell, but a very, very dry grass, or I guess you could say dry hay, dry grass, some type of dry growth from the ground. Caramel, again, a little bit of sweetness, not a lot. Yeah, salt, caramel, maybe a light taffy. A little bit of grass, a little bit of honey. It almost reminds me of a honey note, very similar to like a Highland Park 12 or a Highland Park Dark Origin, like that sort of honey smell. All right, let's take a sip, see what we think. More bite on the palate than there is on the nose. Not that it's aggressive on the palate, but as light as it was on the nose, the palate has a bit more bite than you would think. And it's spicy. Spicy, a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of pepper. Honey is definitely there. Saltwater taffy. Almost like here in the States, if you guys are from the States, you should know what I mean by this, but if you're not from the States, we have fairs, so they're like little local events where people bring, sideshows, little basic rides, singers, carnival acts, things like that. But it's really good for the food, and it's almost like that saltwater taffy they have at the Ohio State Fair here locally. Just sugary caramel, but it doesn't really overdo it. It's something that a lot of people can enjoy. It's very mid-palate as far as the caramel and the sugariness. Maybe a little bit of chocolate too right there at the end. Orangey chocolate, I would say, kind of as the aftertaste that it linger. And for as thin as it is on the nose, sometimes it does have a decent medium finish. I wouldn't call it a long finish, but the finish is medium and fairly surprising, at least from the nose and the taste initially. It kind of lingers there longer than you would expect it to. All right, put a little bit of water in it, give it a little swirl, see what we pick up on the second nosing. With a little bit of water, the brine and the salt has actually come up a little bit more. Almost like you're on a beach and you had like rough waves. It's rough water, essentially. We're not far from Lake Erie, and we used to go fishing a lot. We used to take charter boats out there and fish. My dad took me out a lot when I was young. I'm just kind of waiting for the boat to get there, waiting for everyone to get there so we could go on the boat, standing by that seashore, and the water just smashing up against the rocks. There's a little bit of moss on the rocks. You're getting some of that. There's that taffy again. You know, it was just Halloween here in the States. So I had a lot of extra candy left over. I'm not a big candy guy. So I handed out some candy. The weather was poor, it was very windy. So we didn't have the turnout that we do normally most years. So had extra candy, took it into work. And looked back like on Wednesday of last week to see, if there's any candy left. And like always, there is just a candy no one else likes. One of those candies was something called Laffy Taffy. It's a fun word to say. A rapper made a song about it that was equally as funny. But it is a very average to poor candy, and it is just a light taffy with a little bit of sweetness. And the nose with water reminds me a lot of that. Yeah, I mean caramel, Laffy Taffy. It's fun to say. Say it, Laffy Taffy. Laffy. Maybe a little bit of milk chocolate. That's about it. Very, very light nose in this 25-year-old. I don't know if that was, I'm sure to some degree it was intentional, but being that the 10 and the 18 kind of step in a predictable fashion as far as the strength of the nose, and the 30 where it's at, the 25 comes in sort of a weird spot. You would think that the subtleness of this whiskey would be something much older, at least compared to the 30. But it's still pleasant. It isn't anything that's going to blow you away as far as the nose on this particular one. And I got to tell you, if I was not a huge Talisker fan, and I am, and I just picked this up for the first time and I'd spent like the high end of the retail on this, I'd probably want to spend my money a little bit better the next time, to be completely transparent with you. This, in some ways, as far as how gentle it is, reminds me a little bit of the Glenfarclas 25. And what I mean by that is, even though it's at a higher ABV and probably unchill filtered, being this one here, it feels like they may have used some casks that didn't perform very well. Some of the casks may be multiple refills or just sort of tired casks. At least kind of that's what I've gotten from this whiskey. And I probably tried 3 or 4 different bottles of the 45.7. I know I tried a 2015, and now obviously this I have a 2017. And all of them have been pretty consistent as far as the flavor profile and the taste. And I gotta tell you, it's a little bit disappointing for a $250 to $500 whiskey, in my opinion. I'm just telling you how I feel. But it's still a whiskey that, again, if you're a Talisker fan, you want to get your hands a hold on, but you just want to make sure that you don't pay the high end of this one, because again, it is so drastic. But again, for those of you that have Talisker 25, I'd like to hear what your thoughts are on it. I will tell you this: I was much more impressed with the 30-year-old, which wasn't that much more expensive, about an extra $50. I'm even probably would prefer the 18-year-old over this current version of the 25. Sorry, again, it's just my opinion. So if I'm wrong, feel free to tell me. Feel free to chastise me in the comments, but this is how I see it. All right, I'm going to give it one last sip, give it a whiskey score, and call this review complete. With water, it thinned it out a lot. the spice is still there, still spicy, still a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of clove, a little bit of milk chocolate at the end. But as far as nosing and tasting this whiskey, the nose is improved slightly in my opinion by a little bit of water, but the taste cannot handle a ton of water in my opinion on this one. Now, if you saw me pour it, I didn't just put a couple drops in there. I poured, probably a fifth of a capful in here, but even that is way too much water on the palate for someone like me who appreciates a more aggressive whiskey, especially whiskeys that are cask strength. As far as a whiskey score on this one, as I go through whiskeys, my opinion on what a score should be has changed. So while early in my whiskey journey, I might rate this a 91 or a 92. That's just not where it is today. This right now today is an 88 or an 89 out of 100. And that's a little disappointing for an age statement like this. Distillery that's as good as Talisker, and more importantly for whiskey that's this expensive. I will tell you that I am a much bigger fan of the cask strength version of the 25 and the 30. However, the normal 30-year-old currently we have now at 45.8 is still a really good whiskey that I enjoy quite a bit. It's very fruity, but as far as the current Talisker 25, you could probably get a cask strength version at an auction or something like that for not much more than what you would pay for this one, and I cannot recommend that highly enough. Once I bring you the cask strength version of this 25, I'll try to have this as sort of a test or sort of a bar to set as I review the cask strength 25. I believe my vintage is 2004, and so that way I can kind of tell you how much different the flavors are and that sort of thing. Anyway, just want to give you my thoughts on this Talisker 25, bottle I've had for a while, had open for probably 4 or 5 months, shared it with a few friends. I don't have it drank down very far, but it's opened up enough to where I know it's consistent with the other vintages that I've had. And again, this isn't my first bottle of this, so it is fairly consistent with what it delivers. I just wish it would deliver more of it. Anyway, I want to thank you again for once again joining for another one of Mike's Whiskey Reviews. If this is your first time, check out some of my other reviews. I'll be happy to talk to you guys in the comments section. And until next time, I wish you happy drinking.